Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to today's Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we have an incredible Halo-filled episode ready for you. But we're also going to be talking about a little indie game that Archimedes got to preview very, very early in development called Song of Iron. And my God, am I getting some limbo feelings from it. We're also going to be talking about the Gears expansion, yes, for the single player called Hive Busters. That is coming to us in 5 days, next week on the 15th. And I am very excited because I get to jump back into the world and play new single player DLC. And we'll see if we could figure out whether or not we have the time to get a few other bites and bits into the conversation. But of course, let's get into the introductions first. And right off the bat, you're going to notice there's one member missing, and that is Zemi Games, or the Constant Gamer. He is out today. His Yorkie is not well, and he is currently at the vet. Fingers crossed that everything goes well, and he will be back to his chair next Thursday. Also, we have an update to the Welsh Gamer. That's right. I talked to the Welsh this morning, and that's right, folks. He is planning to make his grandest return in January. Fingers crossed. Obviously, you know, his wife is a nurse, and she is working extreme long hours, so it is up to him to take care of his son. And obviously, because of lockdown in the UK, he's home at, obviously with the baby. So we're going to try and make things work for next year. Hopefully he'll be back in his seat, joining us on this panel, giving us the what the hell is going on at the initiative, comment that he normally does, that he is famous for. But we do have a panel of people that we're going to get into. We're going to start with our good friend on loan from PlayStation Nation. Actually, he has been promoted, from what I hear, to the delegation, which is good. That gives him power. I don't have to pay anymore. Please welcome Mr. Bad Bits.
I sit up on the table that makes all the executive decisions upon the
there you go.
Man, I'm ready to talk Halo. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it. I got some thoughts. I got some feelings. All of them good.
Well, talk about it for a second.
Well, first and foremost, I think, there's a call to action today from Nintendo of America. They say that they're going to reveal the next Smash Brothers in the Game Awards tonight.
It's Master Chief, by the way.
It's Master Chief, and if it's not, because some people made a very good point, it could be a character from Fortnite, because Nintendo and them work really closely. I will riot. I will cause a scene if that's the case. It needs to be Master Chief.
I said it on Twitter, Joe. I want you to know that you have my back. I think it is going to be the Master Chief. Good. I think what Microsoft is doing is, and again, we obviously. It's safe to assume that a lot of these deals were made before the delay of Halo Infinite, right? Where we have Halo Master Chief coming to Fortnite. We have actual shots of that to join Kratos, which is pretty awesome. I have a strong suspicion. I have a strong feeling that Master Chief is going to be unveiled tonight at the Game Awards in Smash Brothers. I honestly, in my heart of heart, believe that is going to happen. And I mean, just think about the Halo celebration. But we're going to get into Halo. And I have a lot to say on it. I am going to say the Waypoint article is a must read. It's so good, and it's very, very lengthy. If you are a fan, if you enjoy Microsoft's flagship title, I encourage you to please take the time to read past the headline. Anything else you'd like to add, Joe?
No. That's it. That's all. I'm good. Listen, I got a lot to talk about that Waypoint article. I got a lot on my mind, so I can't wait to get into it.
Yes. Well, you know what? Let's introduce Archimedes. Now, Archimedes, the reason why I added Song of Iron to the conversation is not only in honor of the dev, one man that made that game, but the fact that you had a relationship set up. Talk about that and how that went down, and welcome to the program.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on the show, and happy Cyberpunk Day to everyone. Yeah, Song of Iron. I was so lucky to play that game about 3 or 4 weeks before the demo went live. Yeah, the developer Joe, I met him a few months ago on a different podcast. And after that, we got a little bit in discussions and talked about the game. And I followed his progress. I highly recommend his Twitter channel. He is really doing a fantastic job in keeping everyone involved in the development process. He's very open and transparent and always shows what he's improving, what has changed in the game. And so I followed him there, and then out of the nowhere, he hit me up and asked me if I'd like to play the game. And I was one of the lucky 4 people who got an early build. Like I said, about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks maybe. And I had the chance to play it up front. And now the game is part of the Game Awards festival. The demo went live 2 days ago on Xbox and PC on Steam. And I highly encourage everyone to check that out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a chance to play it. It's quite good. Gives me a very strong Limbo vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Limbo Inside are the 2 games which I would compare it to. Which was surprising to me because I didn't expect it. From seeing the trailer and the little snippets of gameplay, I thought it is more a hack and slash brawler kind of game. But it really is more in the vein of Inside, with a little bit more action than in the game Inside. And I put a preview video up, of course, on my YouTube channel, and I highly encourage everyone to check that out too. And then go download the demo and play the game for yourself. It's supposed to come out summer next year. Is his target window on Xbox and PC. And I can't wait to play the full game. It is really, really good.
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable. It is, again, you have to understand that it's not a hack and slash game. It has the ability to cut people to pieces, but it's a little bit slow and methodical. But it's done like that on purpose. I don't think that's a flaw in the game. I think that you have to understand that it relies on the shadow. It relies on stealth mechanics where I just decided to shoot everybody with arrows and start hacking people to death. So that's how I play it. But you can play it where, when they're not looking, you can sneak by. I got up to a troll that just destroyed me. And you know what? I haven't beaten him yet, but it's okay. It's okay. But let's continue with our award-winning member, artist extraordinaire. Please welcome 3-Bit. How you doing there, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I've been jumping around to different games. I can't wait to get Cyberpunk. I was going to buy it, but literally my birthday is in 2 days. So my friend's like, "Don't buy it. I'll buy it for you."
Nice, nice. Well, happy early birthday there, dude.
Thank you. And I've been good. It's a good time to be a gamer. Ready to get to Halo, these Halo topics, because I'm a huge fan. As of everybody on the podcast, we're all huge fans of Halo, so I'm ready.
Well, listen, it's going to be great to hear from everybody. And listen, just to give people the heads up, the way the first half of the show is going to be dedicated to Halo in a big way, because it is one of my favorite Microsoft franchises. I think that I had a lot of doubts, even though I enjoyed the July demo. I got excited like a kid in a candy store when Master Chief stepped out into the open world. Sure, there was some pop-in, but it wasn't a terrible demo. I am going to say that with the reports of some chaoticness, if that's even a word, going on at 343, this article very much cleared a lot of that up for me. And I went on a tangent on Twitter, not only pushing the article for people to read it, but giving my personal opinion. And I walked away much more confident. As a matter of fact, we're going to get into the details momentarily. But VJ, first of all, welcome back to the program. I know that you have been extremely busy yourself. It is really great to have you on today's show. I'm very happy that you're here because I'm going to really want to hear from both perspectives that you bring to this show what this article meant for not only the brand, but the people that play it.
Yeah, absolutely, Boom. And I hope to do that with some very different perspectives and very different takes on the whole Halo situation. It's never an easy topic to cover, but we'll do my best. But first and foremost, thanks for having me back on the best show in town, Boom.
Oh, thank you, brother. Super appreciate the compliment. And yes, I'm glad to have you. But listen, let's get into it. Now, the way, again, this article is very large, and this is only a 2-hour podcast. And I say only being a little facetious because 2 hours of any podcast is long. But the way that we broke this down is it's in topics based on how I read the article. And we're going to discuss it in pieces. And there's going to be a significant amount of the article that we don't get to because, again, this is only a 2-hour show and we do have other topics we want to hit. But I wanted to celebrate the very positive information with reading a little bit from it. Now, Joseph Staten dropped what they considered the end of year Halo Infinite update. And to say that it was significant would be an understatement. And this is what Joseph had to say to open up the article. Hey, everyone, I'm Joseph Staten. If you've been a long-time part of the Halo community, you may already know me. If you're new to the community, hello, it's great to meet you. I was a part of the Bungie team who made Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo Reach. I came up the design side of the projects, wearing many different hats over the years, including writer, cinematic director, creative director, and even voiced some of the grunts. After Reach shipped, I became a Halo fan, cheering on 343i from the sidelines. But I've spent the last 4 months immersing myself back in the Halo universe. And it is my honor as creative director to help our team ship Halo Infinite in fall 2021. Now, we're going to stop it right there because this, folks, is not only giving me goosebumps, it's a significant piece of information. And I say that because of two major reasons. The first one, now, again, we're going to get into the story a little bit later. The game, folks, is done. Joseph Staten has played through the campaign twice, and he's in love with the game. What they're going to do in the next 11 months is make this game look like a next-generation Halo game. And I want people to understand something. By us having this conversation, I don't want to see in the chat that people are pissed off because we didn't like the graphics. Folks, listen, here's the thing. 343 didn't like the graphics. And if you read the article, you'll hear why they didn't like the graphics. Okay? We want, here's the thing. If you put on Halo 5 right now, regardless of my personal feeling for the story content, the game is freaking gorgeous. Okay? It is next gen in your face, and it's stunningly impressive. Okay? What you are playing on a game that came out 5 years ago is not what we should be playing now. And if you're insulted by that, I don't know what to tell you. Next-gen consoles deserve next-gen games. And we are going to get that based on what Joseph Staten had to say in this article. And I am thrilled to know that the passion and commitment to the Halo brand is up front in your face. Now, the second part of it is what I have been banging this drum for months and said, if they take this time, if they feel that they need to take this time for this game, let them take all the time that they want and release it around the anniversary of the Master Chief. 20 years is a big deal in gaming. And it's even a bigger deal if you're going to use the delay to make this game incredible and then release it on November 15th which is the holiday of 2021. And I think that certainly I wasn't the only one talking about that, but I was certainly one of the most vocal that that's what they need to do, because not only can we get an incredible Halo game, not only can we get a game polished beyond polished, but we can celebrate the Master Chief with controllers and big presentations and potentially, CG movies leading up to the release of it. We could get a custom console for both the S and the X. There's a lot that they can do to celebrate this launch, and I am stoked to know that that is going to potentially be what's happening. Joe, I want to go to you first on this because you look like you're raring to go. Just based on the first 3 paragraphs from Joseph Staten, how does that make you feel? How confident, with him being the director, making sure things turn out right? What are your thoughts, dude?
So I like how he started this off, kind of giving people confidence and giving pretty much it's kind of like he's handing his resume to the interviewer, right? He's handing his resume to the fans, going, "This is my pedigree. This is what I've done. This is what I've worked on. This is why you can trust me."
Right.
That's the way you want to lead in, because let's be honest with 343, it has been a chaotic, development cycle for them. So seeing Joseph go up there and going, "Hey, I'm the head here. I'm the head honcho in charge, and I can do this." Awesome. Then him saying that, and I think we talked about it as well, that the window is fall 2021, right? So again, he still gives it plenty of room where it could be as early as September, or even gives it room where it could still be pushed.
Right.
So that is awesome. We now have a set expectation. And I think we'll get to the visual elements later, but for the first 3 paragraphs, we're off to a good start. This is what we need. And I think maybe when we last spoke, I think Everborn was like, "All right, now shut up and make this game. Like, no more talking. You said it. Now, like, start the media blitz when you actually know you have a finished product out there. Go for it." So, yeah, now put your head down, focus up, make sure that this is the best experience for the fans. Because, boom, you're right. This is 20 years. 20 years is a big number, which means also that games have evolved and come a long way in 20 years. Halo needs to show that its combat has evolved in 20 years as well. I'm like you. I wasn't disappointed from what I saw. I liked what I saw, but it looks like a lot of people didn't. And even 343 didn't like what they saw. So I like that they are taking this approach of delaying it even further out to 2021. My only fear is if it goes up against another big first-person shooter like Call of Duty, are we going to repeat the same mistakes that happened when they launched Halo 4 a week before the latest Call of Duty? That's my only rear view mirror worry. But other than that, I'm good. I like this.
Well, I'll say this to that to that exact point. When you get to the September, October, and November months, we all understand that monster hits are going to come.
Yeah,
I'm hoping. Geez, I'm actually praying that when we have this conversation after E3 of 2021, COVID is not an issue anymore. Right. I mean, it's still going to be around, but it's controlled, right? Everyone has gotten the vaccine, and it's going to become like the flu, right? And hopefully people aren't dying, and people are back to work, and the world, not the country, the world is, better. And I think that this is such a big thing. This is such a big IP that with what they're going to do, because again, we know that the Banished is going to be here. I have a feeling, and I'll say this publicly, and I'll take the L if I'm wrong, the best Halo story ever told. I'm saying that right now, and I say that because of the Banished, of Atriox, of the rebirth of Master Chief, of how the pilot is going to become his Cortana. That's what we're assuming, because Cortana is no longer in the picture. We also have an idea that the Flood may be coming back, And if they are going to come back, it's going to be in a big way. This is,
that does interest me, because so as the from what we understand of the story, Atriox is dead. So are they trying to bring his corpse to a hive mind?
maybe
Atriox version of the Flood look like? And that's interesting. That would be unique. That would be a cool way to bring back the Flood and not make them such bullshit enemies to a lot of folks.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things you could do here with the story.
Yes,
but they got to make it fresh. That's the most important.
They have to make it fresh. But you know what I'd like for them to do? I'd like them to return to making it scary. And I say that because when you fought we lost somebody. When you fought the Flood, in those trenches, in those tight corridors, with the music and the dim lights, it was a bit terrifying, right?
Oh yeah,
overwhelmed.
In the first game, I love how they're even opened up, because it's straight up like an Alien, where you're seeing POV from the Marine's helmet. Like, that was so fucking cool. Yeah.
So actually, so we there's a lot to get excited about. Before we get into okay, here he is. He's back. Archimedes, welcome back, brother.
Thank you.
We're gonna come to you in a second. We're gonna do. I do want to read some of the super chats. First of all, Spider-Man drops the first and very generous $2 super chat and says, Halo hype level back to 1,000, or actually 10,000. Let's go, with some fire emojis. Yes, I agree. We also have another one come in from our very good friend, our brother, bringing us back to church once again. Smitty Smith drops the outstanding $5 super chat and says, always love the show and the panel is fire. What's up, chat? Salute the Book of X. Indeed. And as a matter of fact, he drops a second and very generous $5 super chat and says this: Halo is coming. Better put some respect onto the Master Chief's name, the Book of X. Indeed, my brother. And yes, there's a lot to get excited about. But I want to bring in Archimedes into the conversation, but I just want to continue reading a little bit excerpts from the article. And he continues with, yep, that's when the game is coming out. And from now until then, every one of us at 343i and our great partner teams will be building, testing, and polishing an experience we hope you all love. Now, he says this: I joined 343i right as the team was wrestling with the feedback from the July campaign demo. This discussion boiled down to one fundamental truth. We needed more time to do things right. That included pushing hard in the fall, giving the team the time to recharge over the holidays, and coming back in January to finish the game at a healthy pace. Because Halo Infinite in fall of 2021, it's just the beginning of the adventure. Okay, so when you hear that, listen, folks, and I have said this before, I am just a dude who podcasts. And I mean, is there some skill behind that? Sure. You have to be able to command the audience. You have to be able to write and put things together. So there is, but I'm not a developer. And somebody at 343 that's building this game probably has more talent in their toenail than I probably do in my entire body. And you know what? I'm okay with it, because I didn't want to learn how to make games, because I didn't want to lose the magic of what brings by popping in a new game. But I will say this: the amount of stress it must be working at 343i with trying to get this game right, trying to overcome the disappointment of the demo, the delay, 5 years in development, $500 million budget. It's got to be something of epic proportion. So yes, the fine folks that are delivering Halo Infinite in 2021, they need a break. And on top of making this game COVID, right, folks? They have families. They have brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, dogs, cats, right? They have kids that they're worried about. So you just imagine the mounting pressure it must be to deliver. So I'm happy to know that they're going to take all of the holidays off to recharge those batteries, get back to being a gamer, potentially a family man or woman, and just enjoy the holidays that they're alive. Because quite frankly, this has been a real shit year, and I can't wait for 2020 to get the hell out of here. But I want to get Archimedes' opinion on this. Reading this first excerpt, how does that make you feel as a gamer looking forward to Halo Infinite?
Oh, I'm so glad that Joseph addressed this and put this statement out. It would have been really, really straight. No, Joe, I'm not talking about you.
Every time you say Joseph, I'm like,
man, we are talking about a lot of Joes today. Yeah, first we had Joe, the developer of Song of Iron. Now we have Joseph Staten from Halo, and we have a Joe on the show. Okay, I'm talking, of course, about Joseph Staten. No, I'm really glad that he addressed it and that it didn't come from, for instance, Bonnie Ross or someone else or Kiki Wolfkill or some other manager in the studio, because we've talked about this before, and I think we all agree on that we all have the feeling that there is something wrong within 343 Industries, and now the new guy comes in. He puts his balls on the table. I work on Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, and so on. So basically, he tells us, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I love that. I love that because it shows confidence again in the brand and in the franchise. That is really a good thing. And we get to the graphic discussions later, and I have to say something on that. But the best part of this whole thing is, for me, that the clear message that it will come out in fall and not in spring. We just discussed that a week ago or 2 weeks ago when that interview leaked with the voice actor, that the game might come out in spring.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
that, obviously the guy was way wrong.
Yeah. And thankfully so, because we've said this on the show as well. If the game would come out in spring 21, all that Joseph Staten could do is polish up a few bugs here and there.
Right.
Now, when he came on board back in July after the July event, and let's say the game comes out to the 20th anniversary in November 2021. Yeah, he has 13, 14 months to do things right. And that is actually enough time to change things, to put Halo on that level that we all want it to be. Yeah, he has now time to implement DirectX 12 support. Yeah, he can actually take advantage of the whole, or the team can then take advantage, of course, of the whole RDNA 2 feature set. They have time to actually change something and not just polish out a few bugs. And that is the best news for me personally coming out of this. I do have a couple of thoughts on the graphics and art.
We're gonna
discuss that later.
Yeah.
But that is really the positivity, the most positive thing from that whole article. They have time to change something, and that is really something I'm happy to hear as a Halo fan.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that when you give a team, first of all, the one thing that's interesting is hearing that the game is done, hearing that Joseph Staten has played through it twice, and he's quite in love with the game. Those are his words. It tells me that them taking the time that they need to make this game look like a next generation Halo that I think we all want, I think we all deserve, and I think 343 wants to deliver. Let's understand that they do not want to put out a 76 meta game. They want to go out there and bring Halo back. The whole ideology behind Halo Infinite and it not being called Halo 6 was being considered a rebirth of the franchise. And if you're going to rebrand or, reinvent the wheel, so to speak, you got to do it in a way that makes people say, wow, I haven't been this invested in a Halo game since X title. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they want to do. And with Joseph back at the helm, I really think that his direction is going to bring us exactly the same kind of magic that we saw in the games that he produced when he was with Bungie. I think that's what we're going to get. That's the confidence I walked away with it. But let's get 3-Bit in on the conversation. 3-Bit, you read this. You are a diehard Halo fan. from a producer's point of view as well as a gamer's point of view, what did you walk away from the opening paragraph of this Waypoint article? How'd you feel?
Yeah, this was the news I was waiting for. It gave me more confidence in the game. I think confidence is a great word in this case. Gave me a lot more confidence in the game. Joseph was saying in the article how it was also the end of the content drought of information for the game. It's sort of the start of more information for the game, which opens up dialogue for what they could improve on, I think. And it looks fantastic. There was a lot of information you could get just from those pictures, and we'll talk a little bit about more of that in the second topic. But yeah, I think what Halo Infinite story-wise is going to do, I think is first, I think it's going to solidify the relationship between the pilot and the chief. I think.
Yes.
I love some of the creative direction in the game already on how the cutscenes don't really have cuts in them. It's sort of similar to God of War, how those cutscenes are sort of just always moving.
It's flawless. It's a flawless telling of the story, indeed.
Yeah, and I remember them mentioning that somewhere in one of their development vlogs. But yeah, I think it just needed extra time in the oven, extra polish. As the demo they showed was already pretty old. Yeah, I'm liking what I see here. There's a lot of information we got from this, just from going from absolutely nothing. What I like was how he addressed Craig's look. That was one thing he did talk about, and clarifying like some of the facial hair wasn't in the game yet, and how NPCs don't have facial hair. And I've seen some of people say that those are excuses. What some people don't get is little things like that. Some of the polishing that happens toward the end of production really makes a difference. I'm not sure how much I can emphasize that. So I'm excited to see the different variations of Craig, and possibly even the Flood based on the installation ring they're on. I believe the Flood are definitely going to be in this game.
Yep.
And I got the sense from this article what they're hiding, that they're hiding a lot in this game, like that they haven't even shown a fraction of what we're going to be experiencing in this game. It's like an open world Halo for the first time, and split screen is back, and if anything is to go by, Joseph Staten is an influential developer to what makes Halo. And if anyone is interested in who he is, lots of Joes in this podcast, look at the Halo 2 and 3 development vlogs where he's talking in it. The end of Halo 2's development didn't come together till like the final 2 to 3 months till the release date. So it kind of puts some things in perspective. Game development is hard. Working in production studios right now is hard. And it's like before I personally go into different studios, there's guidelines given to me by said studio. I'm not going to say who it is. Right. But there's very strict COVID guidelines for me even going into a studio, like a whole sort of like mini book that rules you have to follow. And for game studios like Microsoft, for the most part, they're just working at home. I think people have to realize what that means for development. What if a developer's internet is slow? What if they need help solving an issue on the engine? There may not be a guide or PDF on how to fix that issue. It's a brand new engine. You may have to talk to the engineer on how to fix it. Have to send builds to QA rather than them just coming in the room just to play the game. The whole production pipeline has changed for different studios, and for some it's taking longer for developers, and some is shorter, like the developers of Hades. They adapted to that process very quickly because they sort of already had a online sort of system going on. So right. I'm very excited to see what this game is pumping out.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Real quick before I get to VJ, Pete Shirley in the chat says, wouldn't it be cool if they leaned into Craig and made a co-op survival mode fighting against 1,000 Craigs? Now, I want to spin that for a second, because here's the thing. I think, and again, I'm not a director, I'm not a game developer. Maybe I'll get a nod. Maybe I can get an email or something from 343 with this idea. I'm going to tell you what I think should happen. I think that not only should they lean into Craig as a character, not because it's my first name, not because of that, but because I want to see them lean into it to take what was being used to mock what they showed and run with it. And my idea is quite simple. I've talked about this publicly. I don't know if anyone even gives a shit, but I care. And I think that what they should do with Craig is they should envelop a backstory where he actually becomes the first grunt to join the Halo Marines, that he's abandoned by that he's abandoned by by Atriox, right? Or his lieutenant. He's left for dead. They find him, they nurse him back to health, and he wants revenge. And he joins the first grunt. The first brute to join the Marines. How amazing of a story would that be? Right?
They need to. I definitely think they need to lean into it, and because that's what they did with Xbox. When people are like, "It looks like a fridge." What did they do? They made fridges that look like Series X's. I love when developers do that, because it is at one time poking fun at yourself, which de-escalates the escalating.
Great point. Yes, it does. It certainly does. It de-escalates it. Yes.
And Phil Spencer had an interview about 2 or 3 weeks ago where he actually said that Greg will probably be in some sort in the game.
Well, they're wearing the T-shirts.
Yes, they are.
They're wearing.
My guess still would be they make him a playable character in multiplayer also.
Listen, I don't. All I know is that I would love to see that happen. VJ, let's bring you into the conversation, and of course, as always, I'm interested to hear, because you wear many hats. Besides being a podcaster, besides being a family man, you have an inside look, or had an inside look, to both sides of the coin when talking about gaming, from both a development point of view and, of course, other aspects of gaming. Now, we're going to get into further detail about the graphics and stuff and the other topics, but as I'm interested to know your point of view from the opening of this letter. Joseph Staten basically, in my opinion, took control from the first moment that he started writing. What were your takeaways from what he had to say to open up this Halo Waypoint article?
Just before I speak, Boom, I just want to caveat this, that look, I've played Halo 1 before, back in the original from the original Xbox, and I'm also recently, in the last couple of weeks, been playing Halo multiplayer. So please take this as a sort of a layman's perspective. I'm not as invested or enamored with the franchise, so it's just like a layman's perspective, or someone who's not as familiar as the rest of the panel. So I have to be honest, sort of in regards to today's Halo topics, I've kind of been wrestling with several points of view and perspectives. So I'll just try to narrow it down and do my best to put something together for you. From a publisher or Xbox stakeholders point of view, and 343 management, I guess, from that perspective. Basically, in my opinion, when I saw this, as I've read stuff like this in the past, whether they would normally, back in the day, Brum, you probably know, these sort of articles, 2, 3, 4 page articles, were normally in like CVG, Ace Magazine, and all those kind of video game mags. So
yes,
kind of took me back to those long, sort of detailed 6-page pullouts, from the center pages and stuff like that. So, and you just like keep them aside. So, but basically, in my opinion, and just from a sort of professional standpoint, this was a very typical creative and technical PR piece to clear the mystical or maniacal fog, as I'd like to call it, that has been surrounding Halo Infinite since the reveal. Neatly following up, was it Brian Jared? Was it Jared or something? The PR guy that tweeted out and recently, and I guess that was a required prerequisite, really, of a promise of a soon to be coming update. So forgive me if I get the name wrong.
You're correct. It's Brian Jared. He's known as Sketch. That's his old, I suppose his alter ego, if you will.
Yeah, no. Whenever I speak, Boom, I always appreciate if when you chime in, or Archimedes or Joe chimes in, because it just helps to just clear the air for the chat, just in case I get it wrong. So anyway, so I hope that what I saw from this, I hope that this kind of piece, this kind of what I've said to you when I went back, harked on about magazines in the 90s, right? I hope that this is something that happens more often going forward from Xbox, not just as a one-time thing. And I think that's quite important because of basically what I'm seeing as the mass reaction to this blog or forum or whatever you want to call it, as it seems to me have done the trick for many fans. And it was definitely, for me at least, an urgent shot in the arm or to stem the flow of what we know now as the sort of horrid and unhelpful rumors and speculation, you know, as sort of our species sort of seems to lustfully and gleefully sort of bathe in. It's sensitively designed, and I'd say, I guess, a directed declaration of an apology of some sort, right? But not anywhere do they actually say sorry, but there is a reassurance there. Again, it's a piece of PR designed, curated, and prepared, I think, to be heartfelt, set the record straight, acknowledge the issues, and provide a thoughtful solution and vindicate, if not absolutely obviously justify every decision they are making today and going forward, besides what's gone on in the past, right, and so on and so forth, or rectify the past. All of this through what they've done is through a very open, wide, I'd say it was a wide, far-reaching communication method or forum, and so that they can sort of publicly declare their intention, the roadmap, design, and vision, and justify all of this, like through this, as I'm saying, you know, a crafted narrative. For us fans and consumers, from our sort of perspective, or those interested in the game or franchise, especially since it's, you know, it's arguably the biggest franchise, right, in the or synonymous with the Xbox, as I've previously said, and obviously the game's vision has been clearly expressed, right? We can now see and believe that a strategic and a transparent plan is locked in with a well-known and respected, well, I would say messianic leader, right, in terms of how I hear you guys speak about him at the helm. So alongside him, because there was other people sort of dovetailed as not stars but co-stars, right, alongside him with some of the other gentlemen. Please forgive me, I forget their names, and they were in tow. And he said, "Look, these are my trusted shipmates or lieutenants, and that gives us fans, the public, visibility and connection, and puts Joseph, his leaders, drivers, creatives that are sort of immediately under him, in the public firing line, if not in the face of a perceived threat, right? That they really have to up their game and deliver." And you know, it's pressure, but the kind of money that these guys are on, the kind of volume of funds, let's just assume it's in the hundreds of millions, you know, as far as we've been told. It's a huge responsibility, and we've kind of in some way, in some small way, I would say a large way, have contributed to that, right, in terms of the money that we invested in the ecosystem, and more so through Game Pass. Which, anyway, but to my mind, right now, they are in the firing line. They have to deliver, and it's a good pressure to have because everyone's working towards a positive goal. But again, you know, it's deliver, or it's tantamount to a court-martial if things, or the ship itself, you know, once again goes sort of awry, right? Which we hope it doesn't. Everything for me is still kind of like, just temper my thoughts. You can get carried away as a consumer, and I want to do more waiting and seeing. Yeah, for now, we are told everything is all ship-shape and Bristol fashion, right? And we now have hope to hold on to, or hang our sort of tricorn style of hat on, right? Sorry, that's just another way of saying a pirate's hat, if you're wondering. But anyway, just to wrap up my point, as always, I will caveat all of this with the fact that more often than not, in my experience, when I'm looking forward to a big game, it's hope more than often, and the wait is that what kills me, you know, most of the time. But that said, you can understand why I'm, you know, not completely ready to raise the sea levels in terms of my expectations just yet. I will add that this is an incredible case in point or study that I hope that we can look back at, Boom, sometime in the future, because it's kind of like, you know, the fable or the story of the distressed project that was saved, retrieved, or salvaged, and then nurtured, fostered, and cared for, and thus allowed to realize its full potential. It may lay the foundation as to how other developers and publishers perceive their projects in limbo or hit a roadblock, in fact. And I'm sure it's going to be the making of a GDC talk in the future, no doubt. So that's my take on it.
Well, I mean, and it's a great point as always. I mean, listen, this was, in my opinion, the opening salvo on grabbing the attention of the reader immediately, introducing who I am, what I've done, and basically putting the watermark on that. We're gonna get this done, and he has the chops to do so. I do want to move on to topic number 2. And without sounding like a broken record, folks, we're going to talk about the graphics disparity that was mentioned in this article. And it was a major sticking point for many people during the July 23rd reveal. And look, I'll say this, maybe it wasn't great to you, but I have to say that it wasn't terrible either. Sure, there was pop in. Sure, when you froze the frame, you got Craig's hairless face. I get it. But a lot of people felt that it wasn't up to par. And in truth, when you read this article, 343 felt it wasn't up to par. Now, whether that was because they were rushed, whether that was because COVID played a huge part in having people in the studio and they were doing this from home, a new way to make games that people never did before, I don't know. I don't know. But they did acknowledge it in a big way, and it's great to know that the core game is in fact finished. And now they're working on graphic fidelity and polish to make Halo Infinite look the best it can be, and by all accounts, be the best looking Halo in the franchise. Now, Brian Gerard, also aka Sketch, who is the community manager at 343 Industries, had some important things to say in this article regarding the graphics of Halo Infinite, and here are some of those quotes. He says this: "In the months since our campaign demo, the team has been heads down working on everything from lighting to fog to wear and tear on Spartan armor. As you'll see further below, we know the community has been eager to hear about and see the improvements and progress the team has made since July. So today we're joined by a few members of our art and graphics teams to talk shop." And he introduces Nicholas Sparth. I'm going to butcher this last name, and I apologize. I believe it's Boiver. And he is the senior concept artist and art director at 343 since 2009. He also introduced Neil Harrison, and he's the director of art management at 343, and he's working on currently Halo Infinite. He's also introduced... Who is the third person he introduced? And finally, it's I believe it's Nai Shastri, and she has been the development manager for the graphics team on Halo Infinite over the last 2.5 years. And look, like I said in the opening, there really is way too much to cover. This article was extremely detailed and very, very lengthy, but I do want to just read some excerpts from the article so we can get into a conversation that makes sense. And it says this: "Back in July, our teams pulled together a slice of representation gameplay that introduced fans to the expansive nature of this new ring world. And we got a first look at Master Chief using the grapple shot and various weaponry to take on the Banished. Despite excitement around the gameplay, we knew we had plenty of work left to do on the arts and graphic side. Much of that feedback we heard from the community aligned with our own views and work we were already committed to doing around things like indirect lighting, marital response, foliage and tree rendering, clouds, level of detail transitions, and character fidelity. Still, the feedback was humbling, and it also pushed us to look at additional opportunities for improvement. July was indeed a very much work in progress slice of the technology and a reasonable set of key features from global illumination and dynamic time of day. The GPU-driven rendering and variable rate shading were all in active development, Much of the graphics team's capacity, along with that, some of the key technical artists were focused on achieving high resolution and performance leading up to the demo, which meant several of the features didn't quite get the level of polish and bug fixing that was warranted. Now, look, here's the thing. Admitting this, that there was major issues, isn't a revelation. We know that there were issues because a lot of people pointed them out. But to hear them come out and say, listen, we understand that we didn't meet expectations. And they knew that. They know it now. Microsoft knows it. Phil Spencer knows it. Matt Booty knew it. And that's why they went out and brought in the big guns. Joe, hearing this out in the open, hearing that there were some things that they knew were not going to hit right. What do you say to this?
Let's see. So, funny enough, when I got all the news, we actually talked about it a little bit on Perfume. I literally just posted the part of VOD on Twitter. Yeah, I'm super excited, man. I saw those pictures, and it gave me more Halo 3 vibes than like anything, or like Halo Reach vibes with the special Spartans you got on there. I like the white Spartan. That one looked freaking dope. And
I highly encourage people to check out those. Yeah, check out those renders.
Mm-hmm.
Those are in-game renders, by the way.
Yeah, and you can see the reflections on their visors and everything. Like, it looked really good. And again, like I'm coming from the perspective of I liked the original look. It did not bother me whatsoever. And them saying, yeah, well, like, listen, it wasn't built for prime time. What we showed, them making that. Making everybody aware that that wasn't their finest hour, and they understand that, is great. I always, though, am always a skeptic of like, okay, well, if you knew it wasn't ready for prime time, then like, why just show it in the first place? But it is what it is. We can't turn back the clock and rewind time. So, like, for me, I'm happy that they understand the criticism and they at least have an idea of where the source of the criticism was. And it was the visual element. Now they have to combine, they got to put some elbow grease into their design and churn out something that people are going to really like. I really liked what I saw from those screenshots alone, and it's a good like a little slice of like, hey, this was Craig. He looked gross. Here are these two awesome looking Spartans that you're going to probably be playing as somehow in the multiplayer. Like, that got me really excited. And just like also seeing the cool weapons, it looked next gen. And I think, Boom, what you were alluding to earlier was like, the game looked fine, but what people wanted was a next gen game. And I think the one problem with Microsoft, if there has been one with their marketing, is we have the world's strongest console or most powerful console, and there's not a visual representation that shows how big of a difference that is and how that power actually plays into it. And I really do think that Halo Infinite, these two screens, was a great visualization of, yeah, this is what a next gen Halo is going to look like, though albeit those games will be played on Xbox Ones as well. They're looking really great. If this is like a Miles Morales situation where it's just like, oh yeah, they'll look good on Xbox One, but then you'll get like the fidelity / performance mode on your series.
Yep.
And it'll just look that like, oh my god, that's gonna be great. And global illumination is so underrated because it made Miles' world feel a lot more fleshed out, and seeing that enter into what will be the Master Chief's world gets me really excited. So I'm really pumped. What I saw got me excited as a longtime Halo fan. Yeah, I'm on board. This is good job, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, you know what? Let me just continue before we get to Archimedes. They say this: visual fidelity is a very important goal for Halo Infinite, and the graphics and the art teams have been continually aspiring and working closely with each other to create the best looking Halo game ever. I definitely want to acknowledge that the input that we got from the Halo community and our fan base, staying open to critical feedback and looking at areas where we can learn to do better, is an inherent part of our culture here at 343 Archimedes. Listen, that's again another monster statement that they are acknowledging the disappointment with the fans, not the trolls, not the boot crumbs of the internet. We're talking about the fans that walked away excited to see what Halo Infinite looked like, but walked away a little disappointed. That's who they are addressing, and I believe everyone on this panel are those people. What are your thoughts on this last paragraph?
Okay, there's a lot to talk and unravel about that. I mean, they have to address that. It would be kind of weird if they wouldn't mention graphics or didn't promise better graphics and changes. That would have been really weird. So, of course, they have to kind of say that. The thing for me is a little bit why I'm a little hesitant here is Microsoft is living off of a lot of promises right now. They promised us first-party games are coming. We haven't seen them yet. They promised us best performing console. We haven't seen that either. And now they promise us a good-looking and great Halo game. And as much as I want that, we haven't seen it. So I'll go ecstatic and super excited once I actually see it. Right now, I take the promise. I trust them. I have confidence that Joseph Staten will turn the ship around. But before I go over enthusiastic about the game, I want to see it, because that is the one thing that Microsoft is missing. And I'm kind of on the side of Joe here. Yeah, before you don't see anything and show anything, if you promise the most powerful console in the world, it's kind of hard to really get the masses excited. And right now, I'm really hoping that Microsoft is going to change that, living off of promises tonight at the Game Awards. I've said that many times before. I really hope they show something to give us that or justify that promises that they made. So yeah, the screenshots look cool. The ones that look the most or the best are concept arts, though. Yeah, we shouldn't forget that. It all looks good. It sounds fantastic. It's time to see it before I go super enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, and just to hop off that point, Archimedes, you just made of, they can't. This is Microsoft's biggest issue. They can't live off promises. Yeah. I can't get excited anymore by promises. This is the big thing that keeps me from embracing the ecosystem more. So is like you promise us all these things, and look, they've bought a lot of studios. But we still need to see those things, those fruits of those labors pay off. And we're honestly not going to see that for a few years. And I think that's something we also kind of, miss the ball on right now. Whereas this generation kind of feels like a continuation of last generation, where Microsoft's like, hey, gang, we're still getting our stuff in order. It's going to be a slow year for them, all things considered. Whereas PlayStation's just like, listen, they've done a great job of fooling people that Miles Morales is a next-gen game and getting people really pumped for a game they'll never beat, which is Demon's Souls, and then giving you this slate of games that you're going to take Sony's word for because they've delivered over and over again.
A pedigree of games to live off. And
they have to get over the point where right now, again, we have promises from Microsoft. And I was talking about this on the trophy room. There's a story out right now that the most searched term of the year is, where can I buy a PlayStation 5? that is something to take consideration of. Like, that's if the ball is already, if people are already way more interested in this one product, we have to do something more than promises to get people over to your side. And I think Game Pass is definitely part of that pendulum swing, but it can't be if there's not those killer IPs that really weigh it there. And again, will be over time. Hopefully. I'm optimistic on that. But yeah, Archimedes, you sound not like jaded is the word I'm going to use, but not completely. Where you're a fan of it, you love Xbox, but you are getting maybe a little tired of like things are going to get better. Trust me.
Yeah, you know? Right. This is a good summary of it, because I don't want to go off too much off topic, but and everyone knows I'm super excited for the brand and I love it. It's my go-to brand. I have the other platforms as well, but everyone knows Xbox is my main platform. But it has been a lot of promises, and all this year we have heard most powerful games are coming and everything. I think we will get everything. Like you said, we have 23 studios and 35 teams working on games. I know the games are coming, but I haven't seen one game. And yeah, of course, I was in belief that when I buy the Series X and buy my multiplets in November, I get the best console version on the Xbox. And yeah, we haven't gotten that. I know that this will change in a year. Next fall, we will discuss a different story. I have no doubt about that. That the hardware is a bit more powerful than on the PlayStation side. So why shouldn't the games perform like that in a year or so? But today, we don't have that. And the same goes now for Halo. I have trust in Joseph Staten that he will turn the ship around. I love what I'm hearing in this article. But before I go fully ecstatic and full excitement, it's time for Microsoft to show something.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that everyone here is tired of the broken promises, and I'm not being, I'm not dumping on Xbox. It's my favorite place to play, but the reality is that, when you look at, and again, we have to compare apples to to oranges, because when you talk Xbox, you have to talk about the PlayStation, right? And we saw if you look at what Sony as a company has done for their fans regarding their games, and you just take 2018, 2019, 2020, it's incredible. It's an incredible 3-year run of monster-sized AAA offerings. Now, maybe they're not your bag. That's fine. Well, guess what? Every one of those monster offerings are my bag, which is why I own a PlayStation. And I'm not saying I didn't experience any of those kinds of titles on the Xbox, because that would be a lie. But the reality is that we want first-party bangers to go head-to-head with Sony's. Now, if that's not something that you want and you're okay with what they've been offering, no one's going to challenge you on it. You're entitled to your opinion. But we want better. Getting back to Halo, this is why Halo has to come out and be a monster AAA and just knock everything out of its way. It needs to.
I got a question for you. What when it comes to, because sadly this is a thing that people give a shit about. What Metacritic score? What's the score that
it has to be higher than a 90? It has to be 90 or higher. That's my opinion.
Okay.
It has to be 90 or higher. And I don't care if it's 92, 97, 98. It needs to be 90 or higher. And it needs, because it's Halo. And maybe that's an inconsequential way of talking about a very big topic, but that's the best way I can say it. It's Microsoft is Halo, Halo is Microsoft, and it needs to come out and be a 90 meta. Now, I understand Metacritic score, you could wipe your ass with it. I get it, okay? But it needs to be one of those games that people are like, yo, I became a Halo fan all over again because of what I played. And when they talk about the single player and the multiplayer, they say, listen, I can't tell you which I like better because I love both. That's what I want. And I think that's what we as fans absolutely deserve. But let me bring 3-Bit into the conversation. 3-Bit, the second we talk. You say we said we're going to come back around to the graphics. Now, granted, I think we're all in agreement that they weren't horrible. We weren't seeing blobs on the screen, but it wasn't the next gen version of Halo that I think we were expecting. So maybe our expectations were too high. I personally don't think so. What are your thoughts on the second paragraph of this monster article?
Well, I'm gonna get very technical here.
That's okay.
So yeah, it's GPU driven rendering, which is great, and I see everybody in the chat basically saying that like, hey, Halo, it didn't look good at the July showcase, which I can agree with. And I think it just wasn't ready. Like Joe was saying, it just was not ready to be shown. There's a lot of things within the Series X that there's a lot of things that just needs to be shown. And yeah. I know they're using DirectX Ultimate, which is the future in my opinion, and something that is exclusive to the Series X. Better AI in the future is my opinion, is the future. And everything, all this is on the RDNA 2 chips. Direct machine learning is a feature in RDNA 2, and the improvements in performance that provides that from being able to upscale from a lower resolution without running it natively at 4K, and it's faster than DLSS2. All that is going to be crazy once all this is shown. Right now, we're not seeing it as much comparing it to the PS5. They can take advantage of all these features like sampler feedback, which improves memory efficiency. This is an open world game. People have to remember this. This is going to be
it's not the corridor shooter that we know. That's right.
Exactly. So I can't wait for Microsoft to use these features like sampler feedback, which basically improves memory efficiency, allowing games to load onto the memory, only requiring like a portion of the textures onto the GPU. So I think the graphics were always going to look great due to 343's work of pushing the Xbox consoles to its limit. I mean, go back, look at Halo 4. They really pushed
a masterpiece, dude. And that was running on the 360.
Yeah, on the 360. I think people keep forgetting that, and also how great Halo 5 looked. And I was slightly worried on the technical side of things. There was some missing ambient occlusion in the game for dynamic objects, and also even static ones as well. Like, I didn't see shadows within the grass, comparing it to the first trailer where they showed the Slipspace engine trailer. And yeah, I'm getting really technical here, but essentially it was just missing some stuff, and which did have me worried. But with every new engine, you're going to get problems, and the more problems you fix, the more stable and better that engine becomes. But I think, if anything, these pictures shut down the conversation of this game not looking beautiful.
I agree 100%. Did you see the multiplayer still? That's in game. Yes. That looks ridiculous.
Amazing. I even saw the multiplayer designer talk to a fan who thought it was just an engine, and he said to them, "No, this is in game." And the fan replied, "So an engine, right?" And he had to clarify with that fan, saying, "When I play the game, this is what I see."
Yes, I saw that conversation.
Yeah. And all that just basically made me think about the backlash of the game, which a lot of it is coming from fans who don't even really care about the game. But that's fine. A lot of that backlash, I think, somewhere along the line, people can get lost on the narratives that of basically using Craig to showcase how bad the game looks, and then how Last of Us 2 looks way better than this, and how the Xbox brand is trash. And to be fair, 343 does this thing where they can go into content droughted silence, letting the conversation go to Halo content creators instead of them controlling the message, which is something they definitely still got to work on, and something they did mention in the article. And they've been sort of doing that since the beginning. And that's something 343 definitely has to get better at, and messaging with the people. And I'm glad that people actually spoke up about the game, because who knows what the game would have looked like if we just shelled it out right now. So yeah, I think a lot of people like to jump on this Xbox hate bandwagon and talk about how crappy Xbox is, like very early on with Dirt 5 or Halo Infinite. And but I understand it at the same time.
It's a common theme because people want to be fucking assholes on the internet.
Yeah.
You just want to make people feel miserable. It doesn't matter if you're Xbox or PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. They want to pull you down to their level because they get this satisfaction of knowing that they can make someone as miserable as they are. This is the bottom line, right? Like that's.
Well, I mean, there is a toxic tear down community that unfortunately exists, and they exist to simply do exactly that, tear people down because they are sad individuals, and they want, and like Joe said, bring you to their level, which you don't stoop to. And again, if you don't even engage, simply block and move on.
Yeah. I call them Twitter fingers because essentially, like these people aren't actually playing the games. They're commentating on it, saying basically criticizing it with no intention of actually playing it. So that's like, I understand if you're a fan and you can criticize it and say like, hey, this is what I want to see. I don't like how the grass doesn't have the shadows. That's fine. I see that too. But if you're going to just like basically critique a game, or not even critique, I wouldn't even call it critique at that point. That's why I just say Twitter fingers, because you don't have the intention of uplifting anything. You're just criticizing it at that point. So
yeah, and that's a fantastic point, and I agree that if you don't, I guess maybe I was taught differently, but my mother would take the backhand and say, don't, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And when I would say something I wasn't supposed to, back in the days, you can get away with it. And I got the old chancleta to the,
yeah, that's right.
Don't know what that's all about.
I know that all too well.
Let's get VJ into the conversation. VJ, look, the graphics were an issue for some people. Some people made a mountain out of a molehill for sure. Again, I am in the camp where I did not think it looked horrible. I think there was improvement to be made for sure, but I actually quite enjoyed what I saw. But it's nice to know that one of the biggest takeaways, one of the biggest criticisms that people walked away, both in the industry and as the fan base, was the graphics. And it seems to be on a big enough point where they're releasing this game 11 months from now to make sure that this game looks and plays like a next-gen Halo. And we all want that. What are your thoughts on the second paragraph that I read today?
For me, Boom, growing up with games since the 80s, even the late 70s, it's always been play versus graphics, and I don't think that's changed. However, I'm not going to lie, in regards to Halo visuals, I've been on this show and I clearly said, the presentation in June should have been one that was blowing the public away, and I currently, right now, don't see concrete evidence in favor of this particular point of view, and that's all it is. Boom, it's a subjective point of view. And I also believe I understand and note Archimedes' very honest perspective, right? In terms of, hey, look, you know what, this is all great, but there's still some major aspects or facets of what you said, what was going to happen, what we're expecting to see, with the caveat of COVID. But if you don't mind, I'm going to sort of neatly sort of tack onto the back of what Freebit actually said,
sure,
and talk about two games at the same time, if I can.
Please, by all means, go crazy. And
offer you a completely different perspective. As a consumer, as I've said, I've recently been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves and Halo multiplayer. In regards to Halo, I'm not as I said, deeply seasoned or a highly tuned or calibrated player by any stretch of the imagination. Far from it, in fact. I'm presently very poor at the game, but I've just recently realized that my TV was not in game mode, so that might make a difference. You need to find your range, man. That's the only thing that sort of rings in my head, as Nukem kindly suggested last weekend to me. Not that I have any clue as to what he means or what that advice entails in a practical sense. It's shout out to Nukem. You really made me feel welcome, and I won't forget Boom, because I was on my first ever show with you and him. So it's always kind of sits sort of live within my heart. So, but it's also like kind of very awkward asking, a follow-up or in-depth question, especially, when he and others are in the midst of sort of stringing together, is it kill streaks in Halo multiplayer? My head, or inside that very cool looking helmet, it seems, is a constantly aiding and abetting, such endeavors. Sea of Thieves has a distinct style of visuals. Halo's art style is something, from what I'm gleaning from listening to you guys, is something that was established a very long time ago. And the art style distinguishes the game, makes it instantaneously recognizable, which is absolutely key for longevity of anything, right? Of any product or IP and so on and so forth, or brand for that matter, to all of its fans, right? As perhaps the character design is in terms of Master Chief, the color palette infused within the game, even the locales, right, and sound effects. If you look back at Street Fighter, right, you can only have to catch a glimpse of a screenshot or see, from the corner of your eye in an arcade, you know what it is, right? You can just hear a sound effect and boom. So I think those things are very, very important. Either styles, whether it's Halo or Sea of Thieves, for many maybe modern gamers, they're not groundbreaking or not even great, enough for many modern gamers, and that's absolutely fine, if that's the way, if you're so inclined in that way. But Sea of Thieves, for an example, may even feel contrived, but at the same time they are colorful, and perhaps what's not quantifiable, and this goes for both games, but yet incredibly alluring, is that they have a very familiar feel, and most importantly a deep spirit to them, and in this sense are perfectly apt and fitting for the respective games. On a side note or a special mention, I just want to talk about the Sea of Thieves. The sea itself is mesmerizing. You cannot avert your gaze from it. Whatever sort of devilry, magic, or witchcraft was used to create the sea remains a mystery to me. It's sort of a beautifully choreographed aspect, or has choreographed aspects or characteristics built into it. The sea's physicality, its sort of attributes, it's transient yet always there, rising and falling, constantly changing in shape and color, right? From sort of like an aquamarine. I'm not really great with colors, but aquamarine blue, or to a hint of gold, right? When the waves sort of encroach and ripple over the sand or the shoreline. What I'm talking about, the point I'm trying to make, right? It all helps to connect and cement your personal bond with the game in a sort of a translucent but magical and majestical way. So, and I think that goes for Halo as well. The controls for both systems, again, and the gameplay mechanics, again, are not, going to sort of present you with any sort of surprise or innovation. It's all very customary, familiar, informal. I can sort of best encapsulate this by saying there is a familiar spirit with the control system. Is, and hey, you know what? I've been on this bike. I've ridden this car before. It's just like getting back on a horse, or so on and so forth. However, what the mechanics in either game allow you to do, and what I found in isolation, and more importantly, how they allow you to move sort of freely and contribute to, in a multiplayer or even co-op, sort of contribute to your teammates, and the emerging gameplay from said set of controls that sort of present itself, is what sets these games apart from any single player, wide linear, story-driven, highly technical and production-led game. Yes, those games are good, but they are for a specific quarter. And I was discussing like some statistics yesterday, right? with people and saying, oh, Sony games I don't. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Sony make those games for a niche market. And Jose, if you can correct me in here, but from my calculations, on average, only 3.5% of Sony players buy those games, right, out of the total install base, and that's fine.
It is a much lower amount than you would think.
Exactly. So it's horses for courses.
Yeah.
And
when it comes to real talk, when it comes to exclusives, the only real exclusives that sell like gangbusters, like we're talking 20+ million.
It's Spider-Man.
I mean, first off, it's Spider-Man, but when we're talking about the 20+ million exclusive thing, that is Nintendo. Yeah. Only Nintendo games, exclusives wise, sell that insanely well. Usually exclusives, when it comes to PlayStation, you're right, it's a niche audience. It is the more like it's kind of like that like it's a moment in gaming, kind of like HBO shows like a moment in that year in terms of the silver screen. It's to get the butts in seats, and then right when their butts are in seats, they load you up with third-party stuff.
Yeah, sure do. Yeah, it's a strategy that has worked wonders for Sony. It's why they sold over 110 million.
Yep. No, absolutely, Boom. And I don't want to labor on that point, but I've raised it for an important reason, because I've played the majority of those games. But I have played, and as I say, several of those and popular and well-received games recently. But these two surprised me more so. In regards to both games, 1 hour often turns into 4, and 4 hours seems like no time has actually passed, regardless of the fact time is a social construct that we tether ourselves to. I won't go into all that nonsense, but I'm coming to the end of my point in case you're getting bored. But
no, not at all.
But in fact, it's what it is, Boom. What I found, which is absolutely critical with the Xbox games and the community, is the sense of social intercourse and friendly discourse. With the banter and so on and so forth, as you call it, that really brings these games into the spotlight, because it carries with it heart, joy, and laughter, and even more so with kindred spirits, right? And that are sort of in your vicinity or in the party, in the chat, and I think that's important, an important caveat I should add to what I'm saying. It's true, I guess, for many also, that beauty is skin deep, which was the phrase wandering around my head as soon as we started talking about graphics. Don't ask me why. I don't know. My brain just works. It was wired very weirdly. I'm still trying to figure that bit out. But anyway, but for me, it's definitely pleasing. It's pleasing, but even an unpleasant how can I put it, appearance is not a guide to character. And in this instance, specifically related to games, I'm talking about creativity, thoughtfulness sort of applied or integrated into these games, because they don't just magically appear, as Freebit was saying, right? Production pipelines have changed, methodologies have had to change, and so on and so forth. These two games in particular have meaningfully and positively incorporated play into my life, and probably the lives of many others. And no wonder that Sea of Thieves has so many players, and more importantly, community development. That's even before I go on, a merry trip and wonder, right, in regards to sort of everything that Xbox is offering in terms of that we often forget when we criticize, right, Xbox, right? Pricing, accessibility, choice, affordability, online engagement, being inclusive and building communities. And for me, these two games epitomize it. It's never been greater nor more widespread and joyful. Regardless of what you think of games, there is nothing quite like or comes close to setting your sometimes judgmental or incompetent mind aside, which I, of course, suffer from constantly, and trying and testing something through your senses or with an open heart for yourself. And I mean this specifically in relation to games or books or whatever. You may very well surprise yourself, as that's what I'm kind of getting at, because I see the online criticism, and for me, Boom is totally unfounded.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, listen, I'll say this: you make some really fantastic points, especially bringing up two games that most people would just walk over. Sea of Thieves was launched DOA to many people, and if you look at that in 2020, they've had 11 million people playing it. It wasn't. I'll put it to this way: some people go and say,
"Well, good game now."
Well, Boom. It was the pandemic. People had nothing to do. Listen, if that is your argument, you got no peg leg to stand on, because they could have played anything else, and they're playing it still. 11 million strong. And PSO, by the way, Luke Lore, brought to my attention that not only was there 11
Who
million,
sucks, by the way?
you know,
Who sucks?
not only there's 11 million players, but it's starting to gain ground in where? Where do you think Microsoft is starting to gain ground with something like Sea of Thieves? In Korea and in the Asian markets. They're eating up this game like it's delicious, and for good reason, because it's what that kind of community enjoys. They like online games with big open worlds with a lot to do. Now, again, Sea of Thieves, not my bag, okay? But I applaud and cheer Microsoft, more importantly, Rare, for not giving up on that game, because my God, the amount of content in it is sick. But I wanna reel this back in. First of all, I want to thank Joe, not you, Joe. Joe from Song of Iron is in the chat. Joe, welcome to the program, brother. We got to get you on here so you can tell us about your journey for this game. Please hit me up in a DM on Twitter. It's at Mr. BoomstickXL. We're going to get to your demo towards the end of the program. Thanks so much for. Hey, listen, folks. I don't get a lot of developers to come by these shows, and like myself, he's a small developer. Go check out Song of Iron, please. Get just the demo is free. It's not going to cost you anything but you pressing the A button. Please download the game and just give it a shot. If you liked games that have a massive story to them and it's told through not even saying much. I mean, again, Archimedes, you're going to get into it a little bit later. What these games, what this particular game reminds you of. I mean, obviously the best I think we've compared it to some of the best indie games on the Xbox, and to be compared to that is really a big deal. But again, I want to reel this back in. I just want to catch them with some of the super chats. I'm going to get to the last opinion from Joseph Staten, and then we're going to move on to Song of Iron. G. Brown drops a very generous $2 super chat, and he's saying, hearing Greenberg say, keep expectations low. Well, here's the thing. Because he's saying that doesn't mean they're not going to show something. I think what he is trying to convey is that and he said it in his tweet, last year we showed the console on Hellblade. If you're expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed. But that does not mean that there's not going to be something there that's going to get you excited. Potentially a Hellblade follow-up trailer with gameplay. Potentially we get to see what the Initiative and Drew Murray and that team are making. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm going to be watching like everyone else tonight. And let me just catch up again. Some of these super chats have come in. A very generous friend of the show drops not one, but two $10 super chats. Bounty Boom says this on the first one. The problem with Microsoft is that they don't want to stack the look at multiplayer. And if it's going to be a AAA game, they don't bring out their AAA games because they think that they're not going. It's going to hurt them. I don't necessarily know so much with that, dude. I think what they need to do is space them out so they could breathe. And we'll see that next year for sure. A.O. Greggy drops a very generous $5 super chat. Greggy, thanks so much for the generosity and more importantly for being here. And Bounty Boom's second $10 super chat says, what they don't understand is that they need to catch up. Just let the games loose and let people see how many games there is out there to play on the Xbox right now. I think what they need to do is be strategic. Personally, I think that you can't release, an abundance of games in a 3-month span. Sure, as a gamer, you'd like that, but I don't think they need to do that. I think what they need to do is strategically plan these releases from these 35 developers, and I think we're going to see more of their future plans next year come to fruition. But I want to move into topic number 3, and it is, of course, what Joseph Staten had to say on his way out the door of this article. And this is his closing statements are titled "The Road Ahead," and this is what he had to say. I'm fortunate to have worked with an incredibly talented teams my entire career. The Infinite team is no exception. Folks here don't just understand Halo. They love the core gameplay and the characters, and more importantly, the community. Everything that makes Halo, Halo just as much as I do. And like me, they also feel a deep responsibility to serve. We aren't making this game for us. We are making this game for you. Starting with this update, we're going to be sharing more about what we're doing and, most importantly, why we're doing it. So here are a few things I'd like to share. My first week on the job, I played the entire Infinite campaign twice. I was in a word, stunned in the best possible way by what the team had done. Infinite is by far the most expansive and vertical Halo world ever. Why did the team do this? Because they understand that wonder and freedom are key to the Halo experience. I could feel the classic Halo 30 seconds of fun beating at the heart of Infinite's world, but I have never felt more powerful, more mobile, more in command of a rich set of tactical choices. This is the Halo we imagined back in 2000, finally come to life after 20 years of technical and creative innovation. Sure, there were bugs in the build, and clearly more work needs to be done. But this concept art by Martin, and I'm just going to say D because I cannot pronounce that last name, one of the many incredible pieces he's made for the game, and that's the thumbnail. He says this in closing. It encapsulates all the excitement and curiosity and joy I felt on my first journey through Zeta Halo, the most mysterious, dangerous, and possibility-rich place in the entire universe. Everywhere I looked, I saw choices. Do I explore off the Golden Path, assault the banished war base guarding the Valley Pass, follow a flight of Forerunner sentinels into that unexpected cavern, rescue a squad of Marines dug in and desperate halfway up a mountain, or do I keep pulling the main storyline thread that feels epic and intimate at the same time? Listen, folks, if that from that man that I just read is not giving you goosebumps, then you're just not a Halo fan, folks. I'm going to go to Joe first on this. Joe Staten closed out this article with a very powerful write-up. I mean, again, for me, it was goosebump inducing. It got me excited. In only 5 paragraphs that I read, it told me everything I needed to know about how excited I should be as a Halo fan. What did it tell you?
I felt nothing because I know how to write those things. It's what I've trained 4 years for. Boom. It'd be weird if he said, "Yeah, I played it twice. It was all right." Right? Like it would be like weird if you're like, "Yeah, no, this I played it, guys, and it was shit, and it was the worst thing I ever touched. And thank God I'm here because we got some work to do." Right? Like, no, you want to get people still excited. So, like, when you're writing this PR statement, you want to make sure that people know that the game's on the right track. Game's been on the right track. You're understanding what the problems are. You're aware of them, and you're going to fix them. Right. So, and that's what all this did. And also like give you promise of things to come. So like, he has 5 things to tackle there. And he does, right. He tells you that, hey, the game was on the right track. It was, I played it through completion. Cool. He addressed that there were some issues. That's great. And then he's gonna give you promise of what you can maybe expect from the future of this game, but while still being a little vague about it as well. So he's just giving you breadcrumbs for the most part. So to me, I read that as like, okay, he had 3 PR people come in here and talk to him. That's what it screamed at to me, because I can see a PR statement when I see one. So like, to me, it didn't do much, but I'm more excited for the things I've seen. And again, I'm more impressed by his resume than anything. This guy has come from a lineage of, from Halo and fixed many a franchise and worked with many a game dev. So if anybody's right for the job, it's Joseph. He's the better Joe in this situation, and I can't wait to see what he and the team do with Halo Infinite. I'm excited to when we actually see this game and it's actually ready. I can't wait to see what that vision is, because there's no doubt that story, whatever he's played, is going to change. They're going to fix a few things here or there, and he's going to get the game ready for prime time. When he says he's beaten the game through completion, I don't know how much I really take that for fact. Like 3-Bit said, like, games are usually in this chaos period until the final year. If literally the only thing they needed to touch up was art, this game would be out by spring, but it's out by fall. So there are deeper flaws to this than what Joseph's letting on. And that's fine, because Joseph, again, is here to give you confidence. He's here to give you promise of the game. But I'm trying to be as realistic, as grounded as possible. Really, I'm more impressed by his resume. I'm surprised he wasn't on this project beforehand. And what I've seen so far from those screens, and albeit just screens, get me really excited, because I want a next gen experience on my Xbox Series X, and I think I'm gonna get it with this game. So I'm pumped. With that said, guys, I gotta head on out. I'm doing the last charity stream for the trophy room.
Okay.
We are starting at 2:00. We are streaming Cyberpunk, then we're streaming Fortnite, then we're streaming Fall Guys, then we're streaming a little bonus episode of the trophy room, then we're streaming all of the game awards, and then we're giving our post thoughts to the show afterwards. It's about like I'm looking at like a 8 to 9 hour stream today.
Yeah.
So please come on by, drop by,
get some sleep, because obviously tomorrow morning you're going to be joining us for Breakfast with Boom to give our opinions on what was shown at the Game Awards.
Oh boy. Make sure you call me at 9:30.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you a ring. All right, brother. Enjoy your stream. Take care, everybody. All right, so listen, let's get to Archimedes next on this. But before I get to you, I want to thank Pixel BitG with the outstanding, very generous $10 of jet, and says, raise your hand if the gameplay wasn't fire on that Halo demo. It absolutely was fire. There's no doubt about it. Then remind me again on how gameplay is king, not just during pretty pretty pictures. Game can be content complete well before bug fixing. Yeah, I listen, dude. I agree 100%. I don't even think the game looked that bad. I think that I wanted it to look better, sure, but I think the gameplay was ridiculously fun, and it's going to be a great time. But Archimedes, look, I understand that Joe's point of view isn't what a lot of people wanted to hear. Personally, for me, I don't agree with it. I think that because he is a marketing guy, he looked at this from a marketing point of view. See, that's not how I'm looking at it. That's how I wrote the show. I wrote this as someone that walked away, heard the complaints from people, agreed to some extent, and with all of these so-called infighting that was reported by numerous sources at 343, had concerns on how this game was going to play out. After reading this write-up, I understand it's meant to encourage, for us to be, happy at what's being put in front of us, for us to endure confidence in what they're doing. But it did a little bit more than that just for me, because it told me that they understood the problems, that the graphics were a big issue. Right. And they themselves weren't happy. But in closing, the way that he wrote this about basically, he let me know exactly what I loved about Gears 5, which a lot of people didn't like, was the open world, giving me a choice as a gamer that I can do what I want to do with my character. And that is another exciting part of this. What were your thoughts on the closing part of this article?
Okay, before I answer that particular question, I want to say I'm right there with you. I love the gameplay, and I really appreciate them taking Halo into an open world.
Me too.
This is something I really like to see how the side quests work, how the light RPG elements will work, and how this open world will just function in the Halo universe. And from those kind of things, what we have seen, the game looked absolutely fantastic. And hearing that Joseph liked the story is something good. I mean, if he would have to change the game fundamentally from new story, new approach, making it linear again, or whatever, yeah. If he would have felt that necessity, we wouldn't get the game in 21. Yeah. We would wait a couple more years longer. So that's a good thing. And yeah, Joe is with one thing, he is right. Of course, he has to say he liked what he saw. If he would have written something like, I didn't like what I see, people would go ballistic. However, we really have to think about for whom is this blog entry and in this article, for whom is it? It is not for the masses that need marketing. It is for the fans.
Exactly.
That's
a great
blog.
point, dude. Great point.
It's us gamers. It's the hardcore fans, and that is what they need to do. They need to convince us hardcore gamers again. Halo is great because we are the ones who will spread the word out to our friends on social media and wherever. And I'm not just talking about us content creators, everyone here in the chat, when they tweet about it, when they write an Instagram post or whatever, that's where the word is spreaded. Halo is great. And that's what this blog article needed to do. And that is what it has achieved, especially with this final comment. Because what I really liked about that is the promise, and I said it before, we have a lot of promises, but this one is something I definitely sure they will keep, to show us and keep us in the loop. This is what they need to do. I'm absolutely not disappointed in Microsoft not having first-party content at launch. I get that games need time with special times, everything, and I have more games than I can play right now anyway. That is not the thing. The thing is transparency. Show us something, give us something to get excited about, and that is what they promised now. They said, okay, I took the ship, or Joseph said, I took the ship over, I'm the captain now, I needed a few months to get in my seat. Here it is, here are my thoughts, this is what we are working on, and from now on I'm going to keep you in the loop. And that is something I really like. This is the thing I'm excited about, to get more information in the coming months, to get in the conversation with the developers, what we should get excited for in fall next year. And yeah, so it's a great way to end this blog.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think, again, from Joe's point of view, I hear that, that he's looking at it, again, from a different perspective. I think that you are 100% right and on the money. This was written to the fans. It was written for us. It was written for me. But you know what? I want to get 3 bits perspective on this. But in closing, he does close out with this one paragraph. He says this: truly, Halo Infinite is a world in which I love spending time, and I'm thrilled to return as both a designer and a player. On behalf of the entire team, thank you for your patience and your passion. We can't wait for you to join us on the Halo Infinite adventure, first with insider flighting later next year, and then when we ship in fall 2021. In the meantime, I hope that you have a restful holiday season. We'll catch you in the new year. Again, nothing revolutionary in closing, but he's, to me, and again, maybe I'm a big old nerd here, I felt like Joseph Staten was talking to me. And I think that's what they wanted. That's what he wanted when he wrote this article. What did the closing paragraphs say to you, 3-bit?
Yes, it was a PR statement, but if there's anyone I trust or even want to make that statement, it's Joseph Staten. I was going to say Joseph Statement. Joseph Staten, who wrote and led the previous Halo titles. Again, for people, I recommend, if you want at least some insight into Halo Infinite's production, watch the Halo 2 and 3 development vlogs. He's extremely passionate into the Halo lore, and I can't wait to see what his vision is for this game. And there was a lot of information from that blog you could get just from those pictures. Like, for one, item pickups are a thing again, which I always loved. It always encourages map movements, and when people or when players are constantly flowing to different areas of the map, fighting for that now grapple hook attachment, and two, it just further clarifies how they're going back to the basics, which is something he kept sort of reiterating within the article. And yes, it's common for crunch to happen, to VJ's point, and a majority of the game does come together in the last 2 to 3 months of production, and that's exactly what happened with Halo, the previous Halo titles. But I'm wondering if the game is in a state where the story is complete, and how and now they're just polishing and adding the side missions, because look, it's an open world game. So if I was a developer and had side missions, maybe I would just add, like, let's say the side missions had cutscenes, or it didn't have cutscenes. I would add those cutscenes. What I could do with that extra time is just like maybe add in sections of different side missions where they push the item pickups, like grapple hooking in a cave, maybe, or saving a grunt, or something. There's a lot that can be affected by a longer production cycle, and if the game story is complete, that is a great sign, because you're now getting 12 or so months of just polishing the game to a 10 or a 90 on Metacritic. And previously, when the game was going to come out, they said that the game wouldn't have ray tracing, and they even considered releasing the game separately from the multiplayer. So now they can take this time and really put everything together, make sure it has Forge mode, make sure it has that theater mode, Battle Royale, all that awesome stuff. And maybe I'm optimistic as a Sagittarius, but I don't believe he was writing this from a PR perspective.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
I believe a lot of the PR, if anything, the PR came from not revealing or spoiling aspects of the game. Is where he probably had to jump in the PR to not spoil anything. But I don't know. I've always been following his work, and if anything, he's kind of a guy who's kind of he's pretty honest and brutally honest, where when he doesn't like something. So to say that he really loved the game, and it sort of it's bringing it back to making Halo feel like Halo again. It's great. So I'm very excited for this game, and I'm excited that Joseph is back on board. Yeah.
Well, again, we don't know what's going to happen after the game. I would like to believe, and again, I'm not saying where he's going to go, but he should be left in charge of Halo Infinite moving forward. Now, whether that means that he takes over the studio, I don't know, but I think that his presence is going to not only, for me anyway, has brought tremendous amount of confidence to what was considered by many a rocky road at 343. And if he writes the ship like I think he's going to write it, we are all in for something very special. Before I get to VJ, I want to thank Jesse Darby for the outstanding $2 super chat, and he says, boom, you should have invited Xbox 448 to the show. Yeah, dude, we originally had 6 panel members, and I sometimes go to 7, but we don't get too many topics when we go higher than 6, and then Zemi backed out at the last minute. Maybe on the next Halo conversation. Gamer by Choice drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, enjoying the great show with the awesome panel and great topics and conversation. Thank you for providing this, Boom. My pleasure, brother, and thank you for supporting the channel. We also have another one come in from CYV Studio. Drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, no one asked him to pen the article. Number 2, he did it. And number 3, now it's is his responsibility to deliver. I'm not a Halo fan, but I love the article and I agree with Boom. Well, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. And I think I felt like he was speaking to me. I really, really do. And that's why I appreciated the article so much so that I read it twice. But VJ, we do have one topic, so I kind of want to just bring this into a nice, tight conversation. For you as a fan of Halo that you've been playing,
yep,
and someone from another, one of the many hats that you wear, what did Joseph Staten say to you in his closing of this article?
I just want to apologize for my skewed or misdirected sort of comments and opinion in relation to the last question. So I'll keep
that's quite all right. Listen, dude, this is a conversational podcast, brother. Go crazy.
I thought it was important. But anyway, so I'll keep this incredibly short, especially since I feel to some degree that I may have sort of answered this in relation to the first question. But anyway, so just to sort of encapsulate everything, yeah, you have to take the man at his word, right? And for the majority, it's acceptable and stabilizes the good ship 343 and leaves us in anticipation in the lead up to the next reveal, which I'm saying that because it's going to be exciting. You have to take him at his word because he's putting himself and his reputation and of those of a few others that were in the actual blog itself. And so my question is, what more can he do? Right?
Yeah, great point.
He can't do anything else, right? So, and I think 3-Bit, as he said, look, he's a lifelong fan. And he said, I don't want anyone else in charge. And I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the chat, but I'm assuming maybe it's a question is for the chat. Do you agree with that sentiment? And I think the vast majority will. And even, as I said, Boom, a lot of people talk about Halo. And I talked about this last week on the chat. And there's nothing but praise for Joseph Staten. So I'm not going to stand in the way if that's where the majority is leaning towards. I, for one, I have to be honest, Boom, was hoping for a short reveal or update, and I thought it was going to be later on today. But and from a pessimistic or logical point of view, I mean, I am in alignment with Joe to a degree. It is a strong PR piece, but I understand it imbues and extends a personal, heartfelt intent, and that's fine, right? It's but it's just PR is the semantics at the end of the day. The PR, sort of visual, so on and so forth. It is indeed, going to be, Boom, I think, for everybody in the delivery, where we then can sort of shout from the rooftops. And as I'm saying, I think we're all anticipating the next reveal. But given all the criticism, and I just wanted to sort of point out this one thing, right? The developers, given all the criticism that developers at 343 have faced, this year, especially, and forgive me if I'm wrong, in that aspect, Joe may very well be the man that steers the studio longer term to a higher standing in the gaming industry. You can look across sports team. A change of a manager can change the fortune of the club. And everything.
Yeah, good point.
And I've seen it over and over and over again, even at studios, Boom. It just takes one. And I know that one man doesn't make a studio, but a vision holder. And we've talked about this on this very show. As I've said before, every studio needs a catalyst, a vision holder, a Corey Barlog.
Yes.
And there must be listening to this podcast, Boom, because we've talked about it.
I do have it on good authority from Larry Herb, Mr. Major Nelson himself, who says that there are fans of this show at Redmond, which is pretty cool to think about it. And he said it live on the air, so he can't take it back. So if I was a betting man, that's what I think is going on here, Boom, right? That Phil, the management team, they've seen the handover process. They've done the mini postmortem. 3-Bit, please chime in. I think they've seen what Joseph's all about. I think they've seen that this guy's been shunted from game to game to help out. He's been shunted from studio to studio.
Yeah, he's always sort of been within the Microsoft ecosystem also. Like, I think he wrote Record, and someone in chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just basing like what I know from his personality and everything from the development of Halo 2 and 3 and how he acted with there, and he's very critical with the team and making sure that game was like perfect, So the reason why I was referring to sports team, Boom, you always have a special player that can play in all positions. He can play, I don't know about that much about American football, but he can play as a goalkeeper, defender, striker. I don't know, is it quarterback and linebacker? He's somebody that can put on many hats to a very astute level. That's what I'm gathering from here, right? And look, I'm just going to wrap up my point. And maybe, just maybe, Joseph might well be picking up an award, right, this time next year. So that's it.
Yeah, and you know what? You might be right. As a matter of fact, yes, Thanaros in the chat confirmed that yes, Joseph did in fact write Recore, which was another great game. If it would, and I'm always hoping for a sequel. I enjoyed it very much, and it still looks pretty incredible. I love the animals, the robotic animals, and I really do. I did really like the character. But again, this is look, this was a big topic. I know some people are like, well, you would talk about the gears. We're not going to get to gears because I do want to bring Song of Iron into the conversation, and I think it's worthy of it. Maybe, we're getting it on the 15th, so maybe we'll preview it next week, and then we'll talk about it on Thursday. I'll bring that Gears 5 DLC back around, but I do want to bring Boxer Bear into the conversation. You had an opportunity to work with a developer, a guy by the name of Joe, who is making the game Song of Iron. The demo is currently live for you to download. And you got a chance, and again, we're both small channels, so we don't really get the opportunity to work hand in hand with developers, and you got a chance to do that, which is really, really great. When you think of Limbo, it's a game that was originally only on Xbox. It was by Play Dead, and it is a company that knows how to make chilling story-based games without even saying a word. And the best compliment that I could possibly give this game in just the demo and from multiple videos that I have watched is that it gives me a very strong vibe of Limbo. For you, what was the process, and how did they reach out to you?
Yeah, Joe contacted me on Twitter because I've been following him for a while there. We had a lot of interactions on tweets on his channel, and then I met him on a different podcast where he also went into detail about his development process and his targets for the game and so on. And after that, we chatted a little in the DMs, and then he randomly hit me up and asked me if I'd like to play the game actually, and tell him it was an early beta. He provided to me, and then I gave him, of course, a little feedback for some of the bugs I encountered. He was very happy to get that kind of feedback. And then, I started to ask him if I can use the build to make a video about it, promote it a little bit, and he was really, really happy about that, of course. Because I think sometimes for these small developers, it's also hard to promote their game. It's not just making their game; you have to somehow find channels to promote them. And like you said, you and I, we are not the biggest channels, and so it was a real honor for me that my small YouTube channel was worthy enough to promote that game early on and show the game off, and he has done a tremendous job with it. It was really funny because when I played it, the build, I got stuck at a certain point. There was a small riddle I couldn't figure out. And usually what you do in these kind of situations,
you go to YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. You go to YouTube, and you can't do that with such a game. And so my only choice was either to stop there or ask him directly. So, and that was really a funny experience for me. I've never had that before. And that was just fantastic. And then the game itself, like you said, Limbo Inside is the game that came to my mind, and I mentioned in my video about it. It is really strong in what it does. Without telling words, it has this play in between you running through shadows or stepping into the light and attacking enemies head on. It's really fun. The biggest highlight for me in the game is the animation work of the characters. It all looks so incredibly smooth and very well thought out. It is a real highlight. We rarely have those titles in these sizzle reel trailers. When we see the indie trailers, we always get like an impression of 15 or 20 indie games in like 5 minutes. And this game really stood out in these sizzle reel trailers. And when you play it, and we rarely get demos for games, so I highly recommend for everyone to check it out. You can really feel that this game is just something special. Yeah, the last game we had on that kind of level was probably Inside, because Ori was also a fantastic indie game, but it was heavily promoted by Microsoft. So
indeed.
I know many people don't consider it to be an indie game anymore. But this is something different with Song of Iron, and yeah, the whole process was really funny. Then I finished up my video, and I asked him when I could publish it, and he said, well, he knew the game will be part of the Video Game Awards, and so he's under NDA with those, and he needs to get the go from Jeff Keighley, the Game Awards. But apparently they didn't really give him much information, because it was really on a super short notice then that I was allowed to release the game. This was really a coincidence, because Major Nelson then tweeted out that the demo will be available, and then Joe just said, I'm not sure whether we are allowed to talk about the game yet, but if the demo is released by Xbox, so just publish your video. It was really a fun process overall, and yeah.
Well, look, I'll say this: it's pretty interesting when we're indie. Everyone here is indie, right? We don't have 100,000 subs. We don't even have 10,000. I don't even have 10,000 subs. I have 7,000 and change. And I'm doing actually better than I thought I was going to do. I was hoping for 5 for the year, and I ended up hitting 7. So it's a big win for my small channel. I really, as a matter of fact, want to just make a small announcement of our very good friend, the Indie Gamer, who was on yesterday's prediction show, is having the Indie Game Awards next week on the 19th. And if you're interested and you want to vote, hit him up in a DM, because he's one of the he represents the indie community in such one of the best ways possible, and he's a good friend of mine, good friend of the community, and good friend of this show. And he just put out a tweet announcing they'll be announcing the winners in 15 categories. I voted. He actually was very awesome and trusted me enough to be a part of the voting, which is I've never done anything like that before. So I was a part of the voting process, which is kind of dope. And yeah, tune in on the 19th of December. But getting back to Song of Iron, listen, folks, all I can say is, if you want a game that is reminiscent of Limbo, of Inside, that storytelling with no words, but just what you're playing on screen, I say please at least give the demo a shot. It's a day one purchase for me. It's coming out in 2021. We know that for sure. And I definitely would say, get over to the YouTube channel, follow him there, get a sub so you can get the update, and follow Joe on Twitter. And again, this is a small program. I don't know, Joe, if I can get you to get more people to download the demo. Hopefully people that are, we had 400 here today, are going to at least check it out. So listen, it was great to have you in the chat. Definitely got to hit me up in a DM so we can get you on the show closer towards the release of your product of a Song of Iron, so we can get the word out there, and hopefully we can get the we can get a review copy so we can review it and bring you live on the air to talk about it. But folks, this has been a great show. Yes, it was dedicated to Halo, but I think that because this is the Xbox Factor podcast, why the hell shouldn't it be all about Halo, and especially with that Halo Waypoint article? I think that we did an amazing job covering what is a very daunting article to read. There's a lot of information in there. If you're interested, I highly encourage you check it out. But let's get to the outros. And obviously, Joe is not here, so I will do his. Joe as being someone that represents PlayStation in the most proper way. He's also an Xbox fan. He's also, more importantly, a Sea of Thieves fan and a diehard Halo fan. I definitely encourage you to check out the Trophy Room. Him and his best friend Kyle do a great job of conveying their love for Sony, but they do it in a way that is proper and thought-provoking, and it's probably one of my personal favorite PlayStation shows. So get over to the Trophy Room and give them a sub and a follow. And we'll go next to Archimedes. You have been banging out incredible videos, incredible opinions. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, first of all, thanks again for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to be here, and today was a fire show with all the Halo talk. And thanks to the panel, VG, the 3-bit, VGHD, and VJ, and of course Joe. You can find me at Boxenberger basically everywhere on Twitter, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and of course here on YouTube. And like you said, I have a small YouTube channel with 2.3 thousand subs at the moment, so also a smaller channel. But I put out commentary videos about the video game industry. I'm not covering the daily news. I put out about one video per week where I discuss a certain topic of the industry. And if you are into that kind of content, of course, check my channel out. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, brother. And yes, your channel is growing at record pace, and for good reason. You put out great content, and it's great to see you getting the views and the subs for that. VGHD. Listen, brother, you obviously are a great addition to this program. We like the fact that not only can we say we have an award-winning member of the panel, but you do have an incredible insight because you do look at things from both a gamer's perspective, but more importantly, from a production point of view. And that is why I'm happy to have you on this show. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Much appreciated, and thank you for the amazing show, Boom. You always put together some great topics, and I can't imagine what goes into making it behind the scenes. So thank you again for inviting me to be a part of it, as well as everybody in the Factor cast for pointing out. You guys really point out some great conversational topic points. So Arch, VJ, Joe, you guys are awesome. You guys may follow me on YouTube. It's the Video Games HD. I'll be live streaming the Game Awards. I was working last night making some animated skits, and we'll have some pretty fun trivia games. So if you guys want to drop on by there, you can go there. And if you guys want to tweet me, it's the VGHD. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.
Thanks so much, brother. And last, and in no way least, our most elegantly speaking Brit. VJ, I want to thank you so much for being here, but more importantly, I do appreciate the banter. I think some people, I know that some people may say to you, well, VJ talks too much. I don't think so. I think that your points are elaborate, but they're made in a way where they're explained, and that's hard to do, and you do it well. VJ, where could people reach out to you on social media, strike up a conversation, and what other shows are you a part of?
You can find me on Twitter at Viewpoint Gaming, and typically these days, Booms, you can find me on Saturday Community Night Gaming with Mr. Tushi and friends. And this week's games are Gears 5 and Hot Shots Racing. And,
nice, two good games, dude. Hot Shot is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, and I think it's had a patch and stuff, so we're hoping that it all runs smoothly. If not, it'll be golf with friends. So it kind of really increases the banter level. Anyway, I think something that you mentioned, the special Indie Gamer Show podcast on Saturday the 19th. I'm very humbled to be invited as a part of the panel on that show, and it's
you too. Great,
nice.
You meet there.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a jolly show, not a typical podcast. It's going to be featuring awards and stuff like that, as Booms mentioned and alluded to. And I think we're having a party quiz involving the panel and possibly the chat as well. I just think it's just an end of year, sort of fun chat, and just to bring everything into context and go out with a happy bang. And again, Boom, thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for tolerating me. And I know I kind of rubbed the chat up wrong.
I don't think you did. I don't think you did at all. As a matter of fact, like I said, dude, you bring a thought-provoking conversation to this podcast, and we love you for it, brother. So you're a big addition, and never apologize for having facts. You're well versed in your knowledge, and you don't talk out the side of your neck, and that's a big deal. But listen, folks, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the super chats that have come in once again. The generosity always humbles me. I don't expect anything, and I do this show out of the love of video games. of this industry, but more importantly, you guys and gals, this community. I do this for you each and every week, multiple times a week. This week was 4 shows, even though I said I was going to kind of scale it back to 3, because I just love talking about video games, but I like hanging out with you folks. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for the support. On your way out, please hit that like button. Let's try and get to 300 likes. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you are not getting the notifications, please let YouTube know. I'm getting that message a lot that people are not getting notified. And you know, again, I think it's an algorithm issue. I think it's a YouTube issue. I think that if I had 100,000 subs, everyone would know who I went when my show went live. But I think because we are very small fish in a very big pond, YouTube sometimes doesn't give a shit, and that's being quite frank. But if you do care about the work that we do here weekly, you know, tweet this out. Let people know about the Xbox Factor podcast, Breakfast with Boom, and of course, Primetime Gaming. And I would greatly appreciate that. But folks, listen, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.